World's Finest #1, written by Paul Levitz, art by George Perez and Kevin McGuire. Prerequisite reading, pretty much necessary, is Earth 2 #1, and also maybe Huntress as a series. But regardless, this is following Supergirl and Robin of Earth 2, who have now become Huntress, and I don't think she actually has a name in this yet, but it's Power Girl, are now on Earth 1. And here's the story of how we got there. So we open up in Tokyo, where Helena Bertinelli is burning a passport, and it turns out that Helena Bertinelli wasn't actually her name at all. It was a dead woman who she simply took the passport for, and now she has to pick a new identity for who she wants to be. And she's sitting across the table from Karen Starr, and this is Robin and Supergirl, and they're just talking about, like, man, how difficult it is to live our lives as they sit in this upscale restaurant, because Karen, as it turns out, is CEO of like Star Labs. No, not Star Labs, Star something Industries. But basically she's super rich, so she's just putting down the platinum card, throwing down some big money on dinner, when all of a sudden she gets a call from her lab, and she's like, oh no, that's awful. Come on, Helena, you got to come with me. And they rush out of the building and find out that Star Enterprises, that's the one, their laboratory here in Tokyo has literally burnt to the ground. And she runs in and she's like, is the quantum tunneler safe? And they're like, I don't know, maybe. And immediately she just runs into the building, and all the scientists are like, no, please don't. And so Helena storms in after her. And as soon as they get in, Helena throws on her Huntress gear, because why not? And she follows the holes in the walls left behind by Karen. And when she finally catches up, Karen is down in one of the sub-basements, and we discover that it was actually not like a lab accident or anything. Someone set off purposeful incendiaries. But yeah, Karen's like, okay, here's where it was. Here's where this cool thing was that I wanted to show you. It was a quantum tunneler made by Mr. Terrific. See the pages of Mr. Terrific. And it could have been our way back home. It could have been the way that we got back to Earth 2. And Karen looks around and realizes that somebody stole some radioactive material from the room. And Helena makes the off comment of, because she ran into a burning building wearing just a normal dinner dress, by the time she gets down there, her dress is in tatters. And she's like, if you're going to be doing this, you need to have an actual, like, costume, like an actual outfit. So maybe do that instead of running around in a tattered up dress. And then we get a flashback to 5 years ago on Earth 2, which is basically just straight out of the pages of Earth 2 #1, where a boom tube opened up and Supergirl and Helena just fly their way into it. And when they go through, Supergirl loses consciousness, Robin manages to stay awake, and when they come out the other side, they fall into the ocean. Robin pulls Supergirl up to safety, and then eventually Supergirl wakes back up, and they realize, okay, what just happened here? And Robin explains to Supergirl, our respective Justice League is dead, but we went through a portal, came through to a different Earth where they're just getting started. Like, Superman just showed up. So yeah, it's a completely different thing. And then a month later, they're walking around. How are they going to be able to, like, survive in this world without any identities, any money, anything like that? And apparently Helena uses the fact that she knows Batman, she was Batman's daughter in the other Earth, to bleed some money out of Wayne Enterprises, because I guess all Batmen think alike. And it takes 5 years, but over the course of those 5 years, Karen manages to turn that money into becoming this big mystery mogul who just showed up out of nowhere, bought up all these technologies, and made millions and millions of dollars. Meanwhile, Helena turned into the Huntress and is more than happy to live in the shadows, attacking thugs and whatnot, one warehouse at a time. So, cut back to present, and Supergirl's like, oh yeah, here's the thing, you said I should get a costume. Turns out I actually do have a costume. So she names herself Power Girl. I guess that does happen in this issue. And she puts on the outfit, and they're like, Oh, there's a rumbling upstairs. Do you hear that? Let's go check it out. So they both run upstairs. Of course, Helena's fallen behind because Power Girl is so much faster. Um, but as she tries to catch up, she loses track of her, and then all of a sudden, Power Girl comes just blasting through a bunch of walls, having been thrown by something big. And they get ready to prep up for a fight, and we see that it is against a man named Haku, who is also known as the Irradiated Man. And he's probably the one who stole the radioactive materials, but regardless, the fight comes up next issue. So this threw up a lot of big things. The fact that you I mean, it explains enough on its own, but this comes out of more or less three different comics. As I said, Huntress and Earth 2, but also Mr. Terrific feeds into this a little bit as well, because Karen made appearances in that as well. So it definitely feels like a byproduct of the universe so far. But if I were just coming into this blind, I don't know how well this would read. It does seem like a lot of stuff is just like, oh yeah, this is, if you read this, you would know about this. And I'm like, okay, but what if I didn't? This needs to be able to stand on its own as well. I mean, this is basically just the origin issue and just setting up some, like, here's how she becomes Power Girl. Here's how they got to the Earth. Here's what they did for their first month or two. Like, it's just an origin issue. And I'm sure we'll get more of that over the course of the whole arc. I imagine this entire first thing is going to be an origin arc, but there's not a whole lot going on right now. And in terms of big things, Irradiated Man doesn't really seem like that big of a thing to start off with. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. Overall, I'm going to give it a 7. Just because it is playing with some good ideas. I like the idea of a completely stranded Robin and Supergirl from a different planet that are just having to do their own thing separate from everyone else. But they still crisscross from time to time with other books. I'm enjoying the concept. I'd like to see how the execution plays out over future issues. But as for this one, it was pretty much fine overall.